Also, get this. Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez tonight is also out there promoting her radical green agenda and using this summer's heat, imagine that, heat in summer, as evidence of climate change. You can't make this up. Take a look.
Because a lot of times people will say, climate change doesn't affect me as we're sweltering hot in the middle of DC summer. In New York, we're about to, when I head back to New York, we're about to land in one of the biggest heat waves that we've had in very recently. We're about to hit 110 degrees this summer this weekend in New York City, and it's only July.
May get cold in August, who knows? Wow, weather changes. I'm shocked. Here with the reaction, Fox News contributors Karl Rove and former Governor Mike Huckabee. All right, both of you guys have been in a lot of elections, and I'm listening to all this, and I'm watching all of this, and the new Green Deal and the new leadership of the Democratic Party. How does this play out? Governor, we'll start with you tonight.
Well, David Axelrod is half right when he says that this is exposing just how socialist and how far to the left the Democratic Party has become. It's not the Democratic Party, even a Barack Obama. And they're going to have a hard time selling this to America, especially the part of America that lives somewhere between the two coasts. So good luck with that, Democrats. You have just taken a sharp left turn right off the California coast, swimming in the Pacific. Hope that works out well for you.
Karl Rove, I see one big influence on the 2020 Democratic presidential hopefuls. They've all adopted some version of the new Green Deal, which we know means no oil, gas, no combustion engine, everything's free. Eventually we get rid of cars, planes, and cows. I don't know if that's going to sell. Maybe I don't know that much about politics, though.
Well, I don't think it sells, and I think neither do Democrats, which is why when the Senator McConnell, the Republican leader of the Senate, brought the bill up in the Senate floor, Chuck Schumer attacked him for doing so, calling it a stunt. They don't want to be forced to vote for it. But isn't that amazing? We have these 4 young freshman members who are exerting an enormous influence over the Democratic Party. And as I said in my column in the Wall Street Journal today in reference to AOC, they're unusually shallow. I mean, that Green New Deal draft that she produced, which talked about cow flatulence and unspecified actions that were going to curb people's ability to go get on an airplane and travel on their vacation, and all kinds of sort of left-wing nostrums that would turn us into a new Venezuela. Not too many Democrats stood up and said, you know what, that's really nutty. Democrats stood up and said, well, I think it goes in the right direction. Same on immigration. It is this 4 that have taken very firm stances in favor of open borders. I wrote my column today about Ocasio-Cortez coming out last week for the abolition not only of immigration and customs enforcement, but the entire Department of Homeland Security. And where are the graybeards inside the Democratic Party who say, no, that's too extreme, we're going to reform the agency? No, they're keeping their mouths shut because they don't want to be on the other side of the so-called Justice Democrats that the squad represents, the sort of left-wing fringe of the Democratic Party.
You can add free health care for illegals, and then we can add during birth and after birth infanticide by way more Democrats than I ever thought possible in my lifetime. And then we can add to it, everybody seems afraid of them, Governor.
Well, people aren't that stupid. I mean, you've got to be really stupid in order to believe that somehow everybody's going to get free education, that open borders are going to make America a safer and a better place and less expensive to live in, and that somehow we can take vacations to Hawaii by swimming there rather than taking an airplane. I mean, there's just a point at which they're stretching everybody's capability of suspending their belief to a point where they could buy into the Democratic platform. And then they've taken it to a new level, Sean. The anti-Semitism, the hate for Israel, the disgust for America. I think that's simply the most dangerous thing of all. The other stuff is silly, but this is serious stuff. When you show that level of anti-Semitism that these 4 have shown, and you show no capacity to appreciate what America has done. America's not a perfect place. I'll be the first to admit there's a lot of things we ought to fix. But by golly, I've grown up in this country, have come a long way from what I've seen when I was a kid to what I see now. Have experienced a lot of the blessings of this country. And I don't think these four represent the optimism, the hope, and the resilience of the America that many of us have lived in.
Let's look at the people of North Carolina last night, Carl. Were they reacting to virulent anti-Semitism and the idea that you laugh at the way Americans talk about al-Qaeda after 9/11, or, wanting leniency for 9 people that wanted to join ISIS and all the other anti-Semitic remarks? Do you think maybe they hear that and they're disgusted? Because that's what I sense.
Well, I think that's part of it. I think, though, it's the whole package. They look at them and sort of are bewildered that people in the United States Congress could be so far left and so antagonistic to our free enterprise democratic system. And in there is a lesson. If not simply the president, but our Senate candidates and House candidates on the Republican side do 3 things. They pick out these issues that particularly the left wing of the Democratic Party is forcing on the entire party, and they say this is bad policy and explain why. And then say, here's why it's not in keeping with our values. And finally, the most difficult thing, say, we on the center right of American politics, the conservatives, have a better idea. If we do those things systematically, we'll be in good shape. The president did it in that speech. I thought, we saw it in the State of the Union address when he sort of foreshadowed this. America is not a socialist country. He had a pretty deliberate, pretty focused indictment of the squad, as they call themselves. I think if the president continues to do that and focuses on the issue, less on the personality, more on the issue, and does those 3 things, here's why it's bad policy for America, here's why it's not in keeping with our values, and we've got a better idea for the future of the country, we'll be in a better place in 2020.
They had a hell of a track record, the best employment and situation since 1969, and for every demographic group, thank God.
Those who call for smarter immigration laws, they're often labeled evil or racist, or you don't have any compassion, it's all that usual stuff. Well, that sort of language is used to shut down political debate, demonize. But is the American public buying any of this? Here to tell us now is pollster Frank Luntz. Frank, the AOC +3 crowd, as I like to call them, they're really the ones playing this game most obscenely, I think. And I want to start with one of their classic phrases. Let's listen.
The president is committing human rights abuses at the border, keeping children in cages.
He can't look all Americans in the face and justify why this country is throwing them in cages.
If we improve the conditions of children in a cage, they are still in a cage.
Okay, so it's kids in cages. Does that language work with voters?
Actually, Laura, it does, because it's visual language. It's impactful. It's memorable. And what they do is they give that presentation. They show a photograph of one of those internment centers, and you've got it right there. So when you put that up and you tie that to the language, you just did it, it actually adds credibility to that statement. Does the public appreciate this angry, visual, hostile communication? No. But is it impactful? Does it change people's minds? Yes, it does.
Well, what's your evidence for that? Because, I mean, I go across the country, talk to people, come up to me, and they're like, look, we don't want any problems at the border. But these people came across the border without authorization.
I know.
Most of them have one piece of paper on them with the plastic around it, and they know where they're going. Their cartels told them how to do it, or, other people along the way told them how to do it. And so Americans say, this is terrible. We don't want anyone to suffer, but we're overloaded. So I don't think Americans who are struggling every day, so I disagree with you on this. I'd like to see your data that works. People struggling every day say, you know something? I'm exhausted at the end of the day. I'm working my tail off, and I know I'm going to have to spend the money on 1 million people this year coming across the border illegally. I think people are enraged by this. I don't think they're leaning toward the AOC +3 worldview at all.
Yes, but you know what? That's the reason why some people voted for House Democrats in 2018 after immigration was the issue for 2 months. They talked about what was happening at the border, and Republicans lost 40 seats in the House. There is a better way for the GOP to be communicating. Number one, you secure the border. You have genuine border security. Number two, you have to do something with those who have been here already. Number three is that they want these people to help the economy. There's a reason why the GOP did so bad in 2018, and they need to learn those lessons in 2020.
So you're saying,
you asked me a question. We're on the same side. Hold on.
Right, but
you
no,
and I
no,
are on. I can't let you do this to me.
Okay, yeah,
you're going to generate 10,000 screaming emails
Oh, you're
saying
afraid
that
of the emails
Yes,
now.
I am
Okay.
afraid of the emails and the
okay,
texts
well.
and the yelling and the screaming.
Oh, please.
Laura, we agree on policy. You asked me a question on language, and
Yeah.
it's one of the reasons why the public just wants immigration solved. They don't want this left and the right. We've been doing a lot of polling on it in the last couple months. They want it to be beneficial to the economy. They want people who are here for the right reasons, and they want that border secure. But they believe that Democrats and Republicans
51% of the
they
latest
can't come
poll.
to an agreement.
The Hill hated to report this, but yesterday, the day before, 51% of Americans support the president's widespread raids to remove people from the country who are here illegally. I think the way this story is reported, and I agree that Republicans are terrible at telling stories generally. I think most people are just trying to take care of their families, and they have compassion. They support organizations that help people. But they're like, don't blame me for the stuff that Obama started with the kids in the cages. Don't blame me for that. Blame Congress for not doing its job. So that's where I think the Republicans have to tell their story better.
They have to tell their story better. They've got to be more articulate. They do have to be emotional. But I want to go back to that one visual, because you actually showed people in cages. That's what the public does not want to see. Can't we secure the border? Can't we do the right thing, the legal thing?
But not without money. I mean, the president can't secure the border with a snap of a hand. Can't do that. So, Frank, we're out of time. We had a whole slate of things to talk about.
Sorry about that.
But we got stuck on this. But that's all right. That's why we love Frank.